Milo had been sitting for too long. For weeks, he stayed inside the human ship Sunstep, floating through space with nothing much to do. He wasn't a scientist or a leader. He was just a worker, quiet, calm, and helpful when needed. He fixed small machines, cleaned panels, and sometimes checked the food storage. That was all. Most people barely noticed him. The ship finally landed on a quiet planet called Airless. It was green, peaceful, and full of tall trees that danced in the soft wind. The scientists were excited. The planet had air, water, and signs of animal life, but no people. They said, no cities, no voices, no danger. Milo didn't care about science reports. All he wanted was to feel the ground under his feet. So, on the second day after landing, he asked the captain, "May I walk outside, just for a little while? My legs feel like jelly." The captain raised an eyebrow. "You're not part of the exploration team." "I'll stay near the ship," Milo promised. 10 minutes. That's all." After a short silence, the captain nodded. "Fine. But stay close and keep your comm on." Milo smiled and stepped out of the ship. The moment his boots touched the grass, he let out a deep breath. The ground was warm. The wind was cool. 2 soft suns floated in the sky, painting the clouds in gold and white. The trees made a gentle, whispering sound like they were sharing old stories with the wind. Milo stretched his arms, then his legs. He walked slowly, feeling each step like a gift. He looked at the plants, touched a smooth rock, and smiled at a small bird flying past him. It was perfect. Then, something moved. He stopped. Out between 2 thick tree trunks, he saw a small shape. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't part of the crew. It was a girl. Not human. Her skin was light silver, glowing softly in the sunlight. Her eyes were large and purple, and her hair looked like silk threads floating behind her. She was wearing something that looked like leaves stitched together. She looked scared. Milo didn't move. He knew how fear worked. If he rushed or spoke too fast, she might run. So he crouched down slowly, staying quiet. He smiled kindly and waved. The alien girl took 1 small step forward. Milo stayed still. She took another step, then another. Finally, she stood right in front of him, small, thin, and silent. She tilted her head, looking at his face with wide, curious eyes. Then she reached out and gently took his hand. Milo blinked. Her hand was warm and soft. She didn't say anything. She just held on tightly, like she was afraid he might disappear. He tapped his comm device. "Captain, I think someone found me," the voice replied. Quickly, "What do you mean, found you?" "She's young, not human. She just walked up to me and took my hand. She doesn't seem dangerous." A pause. Then the captain said, "Milo, come back now, carefully. This doesn't match any life form reports. It could be a misunderstanding, or worse." Milo looked down at the girl. She looked up at him. She wasn't holding him like a threat. She was holding him like someone who hadn't touched another person in a very long time. "I don't think she wants me to go," Milo whispered. He tried to stand, and she followed. Her fingers didn't let go. Not even a little. Milo didn't pull away. Instead, he let her lead. She walked slowly, 1 small step at a time, still holding his hand, deeper into the forest. He didn't fight it. They walked for several minutes. The trees grew taller. The air smelled like flowers and fresh rain. Birds flew quietly overhead. Then, the trees opened up to a small clearing, and Milo saw something amazing. A village. It was hidden so well, no scanner would have found it. The homes were round and made of stone and wood. Some were in trees, connected with woven ropes. Light shimmered from inside. More figures appeared, quiet. Curious faces peeked from behind leaves and windows. They all looked like the girl's shimmering skin, purple eyes, and silent steps. But none of them ran. None shouted. They just watched him, and the little girl still holding his hand. 1 older alien stepped forward. Not too old, just wiser looking. He had glowing marks on his skin, like stars across his arms. He spoke, but not in words. A soft hum came from his mouth, smooth and musical. Milo didn't understand, but somehow, he felt the meaning. The girl looked up at the older alien and nodded. Then she turned back to Milo. She placed her free hand on his chest right over his heart and stayed like that for a moment. Milo didn't move. His heart beat steadily under her palm. Then she did something simple but powerful. She smiled. Back on the sunstep, the science team argued over signals and warnings. Their scans still showed no sign of intelligent life, but Milo wasn't answering anymore. The signal from his comm was weak, like it had moved underground. But Milo wasn't underground. He was sitting beside a fire, listening to a group of gentle beings hum songs under the stars. He didn't say much. He didn't need to dot the girl Nolly. He would later learn never let go of his hand. And for some reason, Milo was glad, because in a big galaxy full of stars and silence, he had found something small, warm, and completely unexpected. Milo sat quietly by the small fire in the center of the hidden village. The silver-skinned people, gentle, silent, glowing softly under the stars, sat with him, close but peaceful. They didn't speak with words, but their presence said enough. The little girl, Nolly, still held his hand. She hadn't let go since the moment they met. Her grip was soft but sure, like she believed if she let go, something would disappear. And Milo, strangely, didn't want to pull away, not because he was afraid, but because he felt welcome. He looked around the village. It was made from the earth, trees, and stone, blending perfectly with the forest. Some houses were nestled inside wide trees. Others were shaped like domes, covered in moss. Lights glowed inside without fire, and soft music seemed to float through the air without any instrument being played. It felt like the village was alive, breathing. Milo's comm device beeped gently. He tapped it. Milo, respond, came the captain's voice. Where are you? Your signal is weak. I'm still on the surface, Milo said. I found something. A village, people, real people. A pause. Then the captain replied. That's impossible. The scan said the planet had no sentient life. Are you sure they're intelligent? Milo looked around. A group of the villagers was sitting near a small fountain, weaving leaves into soft cloth. Another group danced slowly in a circle, their eyes closed as if listening to a silent song. Nolly looked up at him and gave a tiny smile. Yes, he said quietly. They feel more alive than most places I've ever seen. We're sending a retrieval team. Stay where you are. Milo looked down at Nolly. She still wouldn't let go. He gave a small sigh. I'll wait. In our past, the sky darkened. As the twin moons rose higher, stars filled the sky like tiny lanterns. Nolly led Milo to a small stone bench and sat beside him. She reached out and gently touched his face, then pointed to the sky. He followed her finger. Above them, a glowing trail crossed the sky. A comet. It shimmered in pink and gold, leaving a sparkling line behind it. Milo smiled. It's beautiful. Nolly looked at him and nodded, though she never spoke. Her eyes said more than words ever could. A soft humming filled the air. The older alien from earlier walked over, hands raised slightly in greeting. He hummed again, but this time it felt different, focused, like a message. Milo watched. The elder pointed to his chest, then to Milo's. Then he opened his hand, like releasing something into the air. You feel, Milo said slowly. You sense people? The elder nodded once. You don't talk. You listen. Another nod. Milo smiled gently. I think I understand. Back on the sunstep, a team of 3 was getting ready. They wore light armor, not for battle, but for safety. The alien crew members, who worked alongside the humans, were concerned. This contact was not expected. One of them said, the human is not trained in first contact. The captain crossed her arms. Maybe not, but he's peaceful. They haven't hurt him. That says something. The alien frowned. Or it's a trick. We should not trust unknown species so easily. The captain glanced at the screen, where Milo's weak signal blinked softly. He's not a soldier, but maybe that's why they trust him. Meanwhile, Milo noticed more of the villagers moving closer. Some of the younger ones sat around him, watching his face with big eyes. One gave him a leaf cup filled with sweet water. Another placed a flower behind Nolly's ear. She smiled and leaned her head on Milo's arm. Milo chuckled softly. You all live so quietly. It's like the forest is your home, your friend, maybe even your family. The elder hummed again and placed a hand over his own heart. Milo understood. They were connected to the land, to each other, to feelings. Is that how you knew I was kind? Milo asked, looking at Nolly. You felt it? Nolly nodded. Her grip on his hand tightened for just a moment, gentle, but clear. Suddenly, a soft sound came from the edge of the village. The retrieval team had arrived. 3 figures stepped out of the trees, dressed in light suits and helmets. They paused, surprised by what they saw. The village, the people, the glowing lights, and Milo sitting calmly with a group of smiling aliens. Milo. One of them called. He stood slowly. Nolly stood with him, still holding his hand. I'm okay, he said. Better than okay. One of the crew stepped closer, carefully. Are you sure they're peaceful? Milo nodded. They haven't said a word, but they've shown more kindness than some people I've met in years. The crew looked around. The villagers didn't move. They watched, quiet and calm. Then something happened. Nolly stepped forward. She looked at the new humans, tall, strange, unknown, and slowly raised her hand. She offered it, not in fear, not in weakness, just a greeting. The nearest crew member hesitated, then gently took her hand. Nolly smiled, and for the first time, one of the crew whispered, I think they're saying hello. Back on the ship, the captain received the report. No signs of danger. The people seemed peaceful. Milo made first contact by accident. She smiled. Maybe, she said softly, it wasn't an accident. As the retrieval team stayed to observe, Milo sat again with the villagers. Nolly still stayed close. He looked at the team, then at the village. This place wasn't lost, he said quietly. It was just waiting for someone to listen. And in that quiet world were voices. Were soft and hearts were loud. Milo had done something rare. He listened. The next morning, soft sunlight moved through the tall trees of Airless. The forest was quiet again, filled with birdsong and gentle winds. But inside the hidden village, something had changed. Humans had come. Not many, just a small team, but their arrival brought a strange feeling. The silver-skinned people didn't run or hide. They simply watched, curious and calm. Nolly stayed close to Milo, still holding his hand when she could. She liked how steady he felt. The human science team set up a small station near the edge of the village. They didn't bring loud machines or flashing lights, just scanners and notebooks. They had orders to observe and learn. No sudden moves. No pushing. Milo helped them understand. These people don't speak in words, he explained. Sitting beside a peaceful campfire, they listen, they feel. I think they understand more than they show. The science leader, a quiet woman named Mira, looked unsure. We need facts, Milo. Something we can record. Emotion can't be measured. They knew I wasn't dangerous the moment they saw me, Milo said gently. They felt it. Isn't that something? Mira said nothing, but she watched the villagers more closely after that. Later that day, one of the crew members, a tall alien from a council world, approached Milo. He looked around the village with curious eyes. I don't understand. These people have no power, no technology, no ships. They barely speak. How have they survived? Milo thought for a moment, then replied, maybe they don't survive by force. Maybe they survive by connection. The alien frowned. That's not logical. Emotion is weak. Feelings change. Milo didn't argue. He just sat back and let Nolly curl up beside him, her head resting on his arm. Her eyes closed peacefully. He smiled. Maybe it's not about strength. Maybe it's about kindness. The villagers began to open up more. They didn't speak, but they showed things, simple things that held deep meaning. They showed the humans how to grow glowing fruit that never spoiled, how to sing to trees so their branches grew in gentle shapes, how to place a hand on a stone and feel the memory of sunlight stored inside. Everything they did was quiet, soft, beautiful. And yet, it shocked the visitors. One human, named Ben, touched a carved stone in the village square. As his fingers rested on it, a warmth spread up his arm, then a picture filled his mind. He saw the first people building the village. He saw children dancing. He felt joy. He pulled his hand back, stunned. I felt them, their memories, their happiness. The alien from earlier tried to. He placed his hand on the stone. But nothing happened, Milo noticed. Maybe you're thinking too hard. The alien looked confused. What do you mean? Don't try to control the feeling. Just let it happen. By the third day, the village was calm. But the science crew was busy writing reports. The humans felt something special here, something gentle and rare. But the alien visitors were growing more unsure. These people don't build machines, one said. They don't trade or fight or travel. Are they really intelligent? Milo heard the words and frowned. Is intelligence only about machines? The alien tilted his head. Of course. Milo pointed to a group of village children humming together. A flower bloomed between them, slowly opening in the air as if the sound gave it life. Then how? Do you explain that? The alien had no answer. Later, Milo sat with Nali near a small pond. Fireflies floated around them like tiny stars. Back on the ship, Milo said softly, people talk all the time. Everyone wants to be heard. But here, I think people want to understand. Nali didn't speak. She just took his hand again and closed her eyes. Milo felt something unusual, a warmth, a gentle echo not from outside, but inside in his mind. He saw a picture. It wasn't sharp, but it was clear. He saw Nali, small and alone, watching the stars from a treetop. He felt her loneliness deep, quiet, heavy. Then he saw himself, stepping from the forest, smiling at her without fear. And he felt her joy. It wasn't words. It was a memory, a gift. Milo blinked. You're sharing with me. Nali opened her eyes and nodded. He looked at her gently. Thank you. That night, back at the camp, Mira spoke with the captain by comm. I don't know how to explain it. These people don't show intelligence the way we expect. But there's something real here, something we don't fully understand. The captain asked, do you feel safe? Mira nodded. Completely. The village is peaceful. The people are kind. And Milo, he's not just making contact, he's connecting. The captain said quietly, then maybe it's not them who need to prove anything. Maybe it's us. The next morning, a message came from the Galactic Council. Report required. Are the surface dwellers to be registered as a new sentient species? Do they show communication, reason, and value? Mira paused before answering. She looked across the village where children played with small birds, where trees grew in shapes guided by song, and where a quiet girl held a human's hand as if it was the only thing that made her feel whole. She turned back to the screen. Yes, she said, they are more than sentient. They are special. That evening, Milo sat with Nali once again. The stars above them glowed bright and soft. You know, he said, I came here just to stretch my legs. Nali tilted her head. But now I think I found something better. She looked at him, and for the first time, she said a single word, soft, clear, gentle. Milo. He blinked, surprised, then smiled. Was that my name? She nodded. He gave her hand a light squeeze. Then I guess I'm not leaving just yet. The village of Airless remained peaceful, but something in the air had changed. After the Galactic Council received the crew's first report, word began to spread. The silver-skinned people once unknown and hidden were now the focus of attention. Other council members, especially the alien species who followed strict rules and systems, wanted answers. How can these people be trusted? One council elder had asked. They use no machines. They speak no words. What kind of civilization hides instead of growing? The humans didn't argue. They simply sent more observations. Milo's recordings became the heart of those messages, not because he was trained, but because he saw the people differently. He didn't see a small, simple village. He saw beauty. He saw connection. In the quiet way Nali held his hand, day after day, was beginning to confuse the council even more. One morning, 2 new ships arrived on Airless. They came not with weapons, but with rules. Ambassadors from two well-known alien worlds stepped out. One was tall and thin with golden eyes. The other was short and wore a silver robe with flashing lights on the shoulders. Both believed deeply in order, reports, and tradition. They came straight to the village. Guided by the science team, Mira met them with calm words. "Welcome. The villagers are peaceful. Please be gentle." The first ambassador gave a short nod. "We are here to decide if they can be added to the council's list of known species." The second added, "We do not rely on feelings. We need facts, proof, data." Milo stood nearby with Nali beside him, her hand gently resting in his. The tall ambassador looked at them both. "Why does this child still hold your hand, human?" "She chooses to," Milo answered. "She doesn't speak with words. This is how she shows trust." The short ambassador raised a scanner. "That may be a cultural symbol. It might mean ownership, or a link, or even a type of bond." Milo looked at Nali and smiled softly. "Maybe it just means she doesn't want to be alone." The ambassadors walked through the village. Taking notes, they scanned the homes, tested the trees, touched the glowing stones. But they seemed frustrated. There are no books, no machines, no writing, no cities, no signs of progress. Milo followed them calmly. Maybe their progress is not about building things. Maybe it's about building feelings. The taller ambassador turned sharply. "Feelings fade. Ideas stay." Milo shook his head. "Some feelings stay longer than ideas." Just then, a young villager walked up to the group. She held a small wooden box, carved with beautiful designs. She offered it to the short ambassador. He took it slowly and opened the lid. Inside there was nothing, just soft flower petals and a light scent that floated upward. The ambassador frowned. "This is empty." But the young villager simply smiled and placed her hand gently over her heart. Milo stepped forward. "She's offering memory. The petals are from the day she first heard the forest sing. It's not something you see. It's something you feel." The ambassador looked confused. "This is not science." "No," Milo said softly. "It's life." Later that day, the ambassadors sat with the science team to share their findings. "They are peaceful, yes," said the tall one, "but they lack structure. They show no interest in expanding, exploring, or trading," said the other. "They are quiet, passive." Mira looked tired. "And yet, every day, they teach us something we've never seen before." The short ambassador frowned. "In this human, Milo, what is his role?" Mira smiled slightly. "He's the one they trust. He didn't come to study them. He just came to stretch his legs." The ambassadors looked at each other. Then, perhaps he is too close, too emotional, not clear. That evening, as the suns lowered behind the trees, Milo and Nali walked near the glowing pond. Fireflies danced above the water, and the gentle sound of hums filled the air. Milo sat on a smooth rock and watched the sky. "I think they're confused by you," he said to Nali. She tilted her head. "They don't understand why you hold my hand. They think it means something big or official." Nali looked at him, then at their hands. She hummed softly, a warm sound that filled the quiet space. In Milo's mind, a picture appeared. He saw a lonely figure watching ships in the sky. He saw sadness, then light. He saw himself smiling, offering his hand. Then he saw the warmth that grew after. Milo felt a soft pressure in his chest. "It means you feel safe," he whispered. "That's all." Nali nodded. And that was enough. The next day, the ambassadors called a meeting. The science crew, the villagers, and the human captain listened. "We have decided," said the tall ambassador. "This village does not qualify for council membership at this time. They are kind, yes, peaceful, yes, but they are too different, too quiet, too still." Mira opened her mouth to speak, but Milo stepped forward first. "They may not have machines or ships," he said, "but they have hearts, they have minds, they feel more than most people I've ever met." The short ambassador raised a hand. "Feelings do not make a civilization." Milo looked down at Nali, then back at them. "No, but feelings can protect one." There was silence, and then Nali did something simple but powerful. She walked forward, stood in front of both ambassadors, and offered her hand. They didn't move at first. Then, slowly, the tall one reached out. The moment their fingers touched, his eyes widened. He blinked once, twice, then looked down at her, confused but quiet. She's showing me something. She's sharing, Milo said gently. The short ambassador looked around the village, the peaceful trees, the glowing stones, the quiet smiles. For a moment, everything was still, and in that silence, something shifted. That night, the ambassadors left with soft goodbyes. They didn't change the council rules. Not yet, but something in their hearts was different. Back in the village, Milo sat with Nali by the fire. The stars twinkled above, and the hum of voices surrounded them. Maybe they'll understand one day, Milo said. Nali nodded, her hand still gently in his. And for now, that was enough. Days passed peacefully in the quiet village of Airless. The trees continued to whisper in the wind. The stars above blinked softly each night, and every morning, Nali met Milo at the same place by the glowing pond to walk together through the forest paths. Even though more humans were visiting the village now, Nali always chose to stay beside Milo. Her hand never reached for anyone else's, just his. Their connection had become something warm and deep, built not through words, but through trust. Milo often smiled at the simplicity of it. I came here to stretch my legs, he would say to the others, but she's the reason I stayed. But that peace was about to change. On the 6th day, just before sunrise, a sound echoed through the sky. It was soft at first, like distant thunder, but it grew louder and sharper, like something cutting the wind. Mira looked up from her camp and frowned. That's not a storm. Everyone stepped outside. The village looked toward the sky, their calm eyes now filled with worry. Milo stepped forward, shielding his eyes as he looked up. There, breaking through the clouds, was a ship. But it wasn't from the sun step. It was a different design, dark, sharp, and cold-looking. Its lights blinked red instead of soft blue. It didn't slow down gently. It hovered, shaking the leaves and making the branches tremble. A strange silence fell over the village. The peaceful forest, so full of song and hums, now felt still. Mira's voice crackled through the calm line. A known ship approaching. It's not one of ours. Everyone stay calm. The village gathered in the center. No one screamed. No one ran. But their eyes watched the sky carefully. Milo felt Nali grip his hand tighter. He looked down. Her face had changed. Not scared but alert. Serious? Do you know this ship? He asked softly. Nali didn't speak, but her eyes said enough. She had seen one like it before. The dark ship landed at the edge of the forest. It hissed as its doors opened. Several tall figures stepped out. They were not part of the council, not explorers, not peacekeepers. They wore matching suits and heavy boots. Their eyes scanned the land quickly. They spoke to each other, but not kindly. Their tone was sharp, impatient. Mira whispered through the calm. Scavengers, private salvagers. They look for unprotected planets. If they think the village has anything useful, they might try to take it. Milo stood up straighter. Then they need to know this village isn't unprotected. Milo, stay back, Mira said. We don't want trouble. I'm not starting trouble, Milo said calmly. I just won't let them forget there are people here who care. The scavengers marched closer to the village. They didn't speak to the villagers. They simply scanned the glowing stones, touched the trees, and pointed at the buildings. One of them smirked. Old designs, simple materials. But that energy stone might be worth something. Milo stepped in front of them. You're not allowed here, he said. This village is understudy. It belongs to itself. A tall scavenger looked him over. You part of the council? No, I'm a human. The scavenger raised his brow. So? This place isn't protected. Not by law. It's protected by people, Milo replied. By kindness, by care. The scavenger laughed. Feelings don't stop ships. Nali stepped beside Milo. She didn't speak, but she looked up at the scavenger calmly, without fear. The scavenger stared at her silver skin, her quiet eyes, and shook his head. Strange little thing. Bet no one even knows you're here. She knows I'm here, Milo said gently, and I won't leave. Back on the sun step. The captain received the alert. She saw the image of the dark ship, the village, and Milo standing in front of them. She turned to the crew. Ready the drop team. One officer asked, should we contact the council first? No, she said firmly. This isn't about reports. This is about doing what's right. In the village, the scavengers stepped closer to one of the glowing trees. We'll just take a sample. One said. Milo took a step forward. Don't. The lead scavenger frowned. You going to stop us? Milo didn't move. No, I'm going to stand here. And he did. He stood right between them and the tree. Nolly moved to his side again. Then another villager joined. Then another. One by one, the peaceful people stepped forward, standing quietly in a line. No weapons, no threats, just stillness and unity. The scavengers looked at them, confused. What is this? One asked. It's called care, Milo said. And if you can't feel it, then maybe you don't belong here. Suddenly, the sound of engines filled the sky again. The Sunstep shuttle landed nearby. Humans stepped out, some in light suits, some holding tools, not weapons. They didn't attack. They didn't shout. They just walked over and stood beside the villagers. A few council aliens joined too. Even the quiet ambassador from before stood silently near the trees. It was a line of people. Different shapes, different colors, but all standing for the same reason. The scavengers looked around. Too many eyes, too many hearts. They backed away slowly. Fine, the lead said. You want this place? Keep it. It's not worth the trouble. They turned and left without another word. The ship lifted, loud and sharp, then disappeared into the sky. Silence returned. Then a soft hum filled the air again. The villagers began to sing, not loudly, but gently, like they were healing the air itself. Milo stood quietly, his hand still held by Nali. Mira walked over to him. You didn't push them. You didn't fight. But they left anyway. Sometimes, Milo said. Standing still is louder than shouting. That night, the stars shined brighter than usual. Nolly sat beside Milo under the trees. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her hand in his was enough. Because together, without saying a single strong word, they had protected something soft, and in that softness, something strong had grown. The village of Airless returned to its peaceful rhythm, but something had changed. The trees still glowed, the wind still hummed, and the sky stayed blue, but the people, both human and alien, now carried something different in their hearts. A quiet pride, a shared understanding. For the first time, the council didn't just observe. They participated, they smiled, they helped carry food. One council member even sat near a fire with the villagers, trying to learn their songs. Milo watched it all from the wooden bench near the central spring. His legs, which once just needed a stretch, now stayed still because his heart had found something far more important. Nolly sat beside him. As always, she leaned her shoulder gently against his. She still didn't speak, but her silence was full of meaning, and Milo had learned how to listen to that kind of quiet. That morning, Mira walked up with a soft grin. You know, she said, folding her arms back at the ship. No one believed a walk would turn into all this. Milo chuckled. Neither did I. She sat beside them. The council sent a message. They want to make the village a cultural peace site. That means no one can touch it. No ships. No trade. No taking. Only learning. Only respect. Nolly looked up, blinking softly. Milo smiled. Good. That's what it deserves. But, Mira added, they also asked about you too. They want to know why a human was the first one the villagers trusted. They think maybe we're influencing them too much. Milo turned to her. I didn't try to influence anyone. I know, Mira said kindly. But you did make a difference. Now they want to understand why. That afternoon, council watchers returned. But this time, they didn't hide behind glass or stay in their high towers. They walked among the trees. They joined the villagers at the ponds and listened quietly to the sounds of the glowing reeds. One of the watchers, a small, silver-eyed creature named Velen, approached Milo and Nolly. We have watched many places, Velen said, but this place is different now. There's laughter, singing, even after danger. There is no fear, Milo nodded. That's because they're not alone anymore. Velen tilted his head. You are a soft species. You smile often. You speak gently. And yet, you protected this place without fear. Milo shrugged. We don't always need to fight to protect something. Velen blinked. How? Milo looked up at the trees. By standing. By listening. By caring. Most people want peace there. Just waiting for someone else to show it first. That evening, Velen sat with the council and shared everything he'd seen. He spoke of the village's quiet strength, of Nali's hand holding Milo's, of the villagers joining hands without a word to protect their home. They did not speak loudly. Velen said, but they are loud in meaning. The humans, they bring stillness, not chaos, and the village has accepted them as one of their own. A tall council leader tapped her long fingers together. But humans are from a death world. They should be wild, difficult. Velen smiled softly. Perhaps. But maybe that is what makes them strong. They can survive anything, but they still choose peace. Days passed, and word spread across nearby sectors. Other species sent small groups to observe the village, not to study it like a strange object, but to understand its peace. Each visitor was greeted not with words, but with shared walks, quiet meals, and songs by the stream. It became a place of calm, a place of learning. Milo became something of a symbol, not by choice, but simply because he had never left. One morning, a young student from a bird-like species approached him. She held a small sketch pad. Why do you hold her hand? The student asked, watching Milo and Nali under the trees. Milo looked at Nali, then down at their hands. Because she trusts me, he said, and I trust her. Even though you are different, the student asked, especially because we are different. Milo replied with a smile. That's how we learn. Later that night, Nali led Milo to the edge of the glowing pond. She placed her hand gently on the water's surface. It shimmered, then slowly displayed a floating image. It was the memory of the day he first arrived, the moment his foot touched the soft moss, and her hand reached out. He watched silently. Nali looked up at him and, for the first time, whispered a word in soft, musical tone. Stay. It was only one word, but to Milo, it felt like the loudest, clearest sound in the universe. He nodded. I will. The Sunset crew offered to bring him back. Council members offered rewards, speeches, even a seat in a new peace committee. Milo declined them all. He had found what he never meant to look for. Not a mission, not a reward. Just a hand that held his and didn't let go. Back on Earth, few understood the power of what had happened on that little green planet. But slowly, word spread in council halls and among star travelers. They said a human helped save a village without building walls. They said peace had a new face. And sometimes, when young cadets asked their captains, what's the best way to stop a war, the answer wasn't always a strategy or a fleet. Sometimes the answer was just, start with kindness, then hold your ground. Like the human who stood by a quiet girl and didn't let go. His season of silver leaves came again in the village of Airless. The trees shimmered with soft light. The small creatures danced in the wind, and the stream sang its peaceful song through the middle of the village, as it always had. But there was something new in the air now, something warm, something stronger than before. It was the feeling of belonging. Milo had been living in Airless for many months. He was no longer the outsider or the visitor. He had become part of the village rhythm. He helped fix the sky nets with the elder builders. He tended to the glowing gardens with the quiet children. And every evening, he sat by the stream with Nali, watching the light fade and the stars return. She still spoke very little, but her eyes always said enough. And every time they walked together, she held his hand. It was no longer just a small gesture. It was a promise. One day, the village received a strange visitor. A small flying drone came from above and gently floated to the center of the village. It was round and silver, and it projected a quiet voice that all could understand. Greetings from the Galactic Assembly, the voice said. You are invited to speak at the Unity Conference. The villagers didn't move. They weren't used to such things, But Milo stood, surprised. Then the voice added, "We request the human Milo to speak on behalf of the village of Airless." Milo blinked. Me. Nolly squeezed his hand gently. He looked at her, then back at the floating drone. "All right, I'll go." The conference took place on a moon called Allura 6, a peaceful place with crystal towers and sky pops made of light. Beings from across the galaxy came to speak about peace, culture, and connection. When Milo arrived, many stared, some whispered. A few council members nodded in respect. He was guided to the center of the grand circle, where hundreds of alien leaders sat. A large being with blue feathers spoke first. "Human Milo, you were not trained as a peacekeeper or council speaker. Yet you brought calm to a village that many thought impossible to reach. How?" Milo stood quietly for a moment. Then he spoke in his simple, gentle voice. "I didn't go there to fix anything," he said. "I just went for a walk." Some aliens chuckled lightly. "But when I met the people of Airless," he continued, "I saw something in their eyes, something that felt familiar. They didn't want power. They didn't want help. They just wanted someone who would stay." He paused and looked around. "I stayed, and they gave me something greater than words. They gave me trust." Another council member leaned forward. "Why do you think they trusted you when they trusted no other visitor?" Milo smiled softly. "Because I listened. I didn't ask them to change. I let them show me who they were." He looked up at the clear sky dome above. "Peace doesn't come from orders. It grows slowly, like the plants in Airless. It starts small. It needs patience. But if you care for it, it becomes something strong." A quiet silence filled the hall. Then the tall leader of the Galactic Assembly stood. "We have sent ships and machines. We have written rules and held meetings. But perhaps we forgot the most basic truth." She turned to Milo. "That sometimes peace begins with a single walk and a hand not letting go." After the conference, many envoys came to visit Airless, but they did not bring equipment or scanners. They brought stories, songs, seeds from their home planets. Some brought children. The village grew not in size, but in spirit. Now, around the stream, many different kinds of people sat together, shared meals, and laughed gently under the silver trees. Milo built a small round house on the edge of the forest, not far from Nolly's home. It had no doorbell, no machines, only a wind chime made from local shells and a roof of soft leaves. Nolly visited each morning. She brought fruit and quiet company. She also began speaking again. Not much, just short words. Warm ones: peace, kind, stay, listen. Each word was like a gift. One evening, as the stars came out, Nolly and Milo walked to the far edge of the forest. There, a platform made of smooth stone overlooked the hills. She pointed to the sky. "Far," she said softly. "You want to go?" "Far?" Milo asked. She shook her head. "Far. Come here," she whispered. Then she touched her chest. "They come here." Milo thought for a moment. "Because of you?" She nodded, then touched his hand. "Because of us." Months later, the Galactic Assembly named Airless a circle of harmony, a place protected from conflict, open to all, but controlled by none. They also created a new learning program, inspired by Milo and Nolly's story. It was called The Listening Path. The first lesson: start with one walk, and no judgment. Back on Earth, few knew the whole story. But one day, a school on Mars told its students, kindness travels faster than light. And a child asked, "Is that really true?" The teacher smiled. There was once a human who went for a walk on an alien world, and because of that, the stars became quieter. As for Milo and Nolly, they walked the village paths every evening. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they said nothing at all. But always they held hands, and neither of them ever let go.